Tinfoil hat.
Oh, what the fuck are you guys even talking about?
Global controls will have to be imposed, and a world governing body will be created to enforce them.
Welcome to Tinfoil Hat. We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Are you ready to get your mind blown?
Good morning, Swarm, and welcome to Tinfoil Hat. You know I am. You know I'm here to. I'm here to.
Rah!
Join me as always, Xavier Guerrero, and the ones and twos, Jay Nice, Juicy Johnny, Johnny Woodard. How are you guys?
Hola.
Great show today. We got Matt LaCroix and we got Jeffery Wilson on talking hidden history again. Nothing but bangers, bro. It's a great episode. Real quick, we just want to tell you about if you want to see me live, me, Sweet Sammy T, just go to samtripoli.com and grab your tickets there under events. I got some dates coming up. July 28th, I'm in Boise, Idaho at Live at the End of the Universe. Then the next night, I'm back in LA or I'm in Ventura. That's July 29th. And I'm doing the Ventura, California. And then finally, we're going to do an opera house. The Three Conspirators. Should I turn that into a t-shirt? The Three Conspirators. That will be available. We're playing the Broad Brook Opera House on the 12th, and we're working on right now August 13th in New York City. We're going to try to make it happen. It might be a little late, but we'll make it work. If you're looking for more content, more Tinfoil Hat content, just go to rockfin.com or you can go to Sam Tripoli, click the links. I'm putting up the minimum of 4 shows a week. Oh, no, 5. Excuse me. 5 shows a week on rockfin.com. You can click any of the banners. You can check out our investment show, Cash Daddies, at patreon.com/Cash Daddies if you want to make some money. And real quick, t-shirts are great. It's a great way to support the show. We have our mystery t-shirt, which is the Unabomber shirt. And then we have the George Bush Death Cult. I have a couple new shirts coming up. That will be up soon too as well. And if you want to listen to free audio, just go down and you can click any of the banners. You get free audio. You can join our social media. You can be totally a conspiracy theorist on samtripoli.com. And again, we have some affiliates. You can hear about them at the end of the show. It's a great way to prepare for the zombie apocalypse, okay? Get ready to battle the forces of evil, dog. Okay? So stay tuned to the end of the show to hear about all these amazing affiliate programs we have available for you. Anything else, guys?
July 15th, first, we don't smoke the same high and hungry pop-up. We're going to have a dunk tank, so you're going to be able to pay $5 and try to dunk me in, and there's just going to be some food, hanging out, just a little pop-up, a little have fun, little vendors.
That's cool. That's cool. Check out Broken Sim. We took off last week, but if you want to join us on a fitness thing, it's not too late.
Nothing but bangers. Here we go. Enjoy the show.
We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink.
Guys, we're in it, guys. Welcome to the show. Very excited. We have somebody else about to come on. Dude, chaos here in the studios. Who knows what's going on? We're a dangerous show talking about dangerous subjects, dude. And this is one of it. Joining us, as always, one of my favorite people on the planet. He's a good friend of mine. We talk all the time. From the Conspiracy Farm, Jeffery Wilson. Bow, 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 bow.
What's up, dude? Something just happened again, but we're working with what we. Oh, you hit? Okay, I'm there.
You're
okay.
good.
Okay,
You're
shit.
in. You're in.
There
You're
were
in.
two
What is
instances
up,
of
man?
you.
How's everybody doing?
Well,
Thank
we're
you,
better
man.
now, dude. I mean, we've literally, for people who don't know, we spent an hour trying to make the show happen in studio.
I'm so sorry, man.
No,
I'm
it's
so
not
very
your
sorry.
fault. It's the.
Well, I know
it's-
everyone's time's valuable, and I'm literally working with fucking Fred Flintstone's computer, so like this kind of stuff
That's
happens.
fine,
So I
buddy.
apologize.
It doesn't matter. You're doing great. We
Sorry,
love
I'm
you
gonna
very
drop
much.
f bombs.
Drop all the
and
F-bombs.
let me say this.
you want.
But just we're trying to be professional. I know Matthew doesn't really like that kind of stuff. But
Well,
anyway,
okay.
I just want to say, Samuel, seriously, before we get started, thank you for all of your guys' patience. Matthew, it's good to be chopping up with you again. But Sam, I love you, man. And I really want people to know throughout the swarm how an incredibly human being you are. We've all been going through some shit, but your boys kind of had some crazy stuff going on back to back. And Sam has just called, checked on me, and just been a really good friend. And I just want you to know how much I value you and I value your friendship, my friend. And I truly mean that from the bottom of my heart, man.
I appreciate that. That means a lot. Anytime, all the time, buddy. That's what friends do for each other. So thank you for that
That's
kindness. True. Hopefully that'll buy me just a millisecond of kindness from the internet. We'll see how it goes. Also joining us, his first time back, a triumphant return to Tinfoil Hat at episode 500. He was named as one of the 5 people. There was only supposed to be 4, but 5 people made it in. He was named a member of Mount Crushmore. Welcome back to Tinfoil Hat, Matt LaCroix. How are you, buddy?
Thank you so much, Sam. It's an honor, guys. Thanks for everyone who voted for me.
Speech.
I appreciate everyone who voted for me. It's definitely been quite a journey to get to here. Sam and I, and one with Jeff as well, have done, I think, 3 shows over the course of, several years ago. And we covered some pretty cool topics. And as always, Sam, I love your reactions. And Jeff, we play off each other really well when we work doing these kinds of shows. So it's great to be back together, everyone. And as always, thanks for all the support. And if anything, this is the one that's about to change history. So buckle up, guys.
So, and dude, congratulations. That was very cool that people loved everything you did, really resonated. I talk a lot about my spiritual journey in life, and I mention you a lot, Matt, because
I appreciate that.
You and Vaughn Galt were like early. You were both very early into the show, and you both I felt like you guys were both saying the exact same thing, but from 2 different angles, which was, yours more of analytical and data, and hers was from this very spiritual side. But it was like saying the same thing. And I was like, okay, that literally that's the moment where I go, oh man, this is on the sun, because these 2 people, I wouldn't say you guys are opposite, but you're both wonderful people, but you're both coming from a different kind of angle, and you guys are saying the exact same thing. So I'm very excited to have you back. Now I know you got a new book coming out. Can you tell, or it's coming out, or it's already come out? Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. Yeah. There's a lot of things going on right now. It's been quite busy. I've been working at Gaia for 2 years. And while I've been there, we've been just writing and doing a lot of cool new research and uncovering a lot of things. And I'm sort of helping to spearhead the new season of Ancient Civilizations, which we're going to take this to a completely another level of that. Now, just branching back to what you said, I did have a new book that I finished, I co-wrote with Billy Carson, called The Epic of Humanity. It was a collection of several years of trying to put together what our entire timeline and these different rises and falls of civilization. So that's why it's called The Epic of Humanity. It's not CH at the end. It's IC, like epic, like a great journey. Like we've had an epic journey here. And when you look at everything from our ancient history and all these ancient tablets left behind, you see the rise and fall of civilizations and these destructive events that have wiped out this entire lost time period of us. When we once were much more connected to the stars and higher consciousness and spirituality. And what this book does is tries to piece all those ancient things together. And it's called The Epic of Humanity, and that's available for pre-order, and it should be available to actually ship anytime, very, very soon. But today's focus, and with the current book I'm writing, the next book I'm writing right now, I'm in the middle of, is called The Dark Star and the Lost Civilizations of Earth, Sumer to Atlantis. And that is where it's going to be incorporating some of the things that we're going to be talking about, as well as the new book. And Jeffrey, he's the reason we're here today on the call. So I would just like to say, it's an honor, gentlemen, to be all here to change history.
I love it, dude. Real quick, before we get into everything, Jeffrey, can you tell them where they can find you as well? So, they can, after the episode, they love it, they can let you know.
And I'm on Twitter, mostly at Conspiracy Farm 1, as where myself and UFC Hall of Famer Pat Miletich still drop it like it's hot, almost 10 years in. And I still got at I'm Jeffery Wilson, Jeffery on Twitter. Yeah, that's pretty much where you can find most of our stuff.
All the links are available. And guys, you have my email. I'll give it to you when we're done. Just email any links you want included in the description after you're done recording the show. So let's get into it. Here we are, man. What do you got from us? You've been biting at the bit to get to it. We're all super excited about this. And, I'm on this real journey in life, spiritually, about what I'm getting into. Am I into, esoteric? Is there some Gnosticism out there? Am I into Christianity? I have the big JC in my life, Jesus Christ. So I'm on this journey, and I kind of go with my gut, guys, on what I believe. There's just the spirit talks to me, and I do believe our history is hidden. All of it, everything about every moment is hidden. And that's why I always love talking to you guys, because this is a really great topic that I know our listeners would love to hear. So let's get into it. Tell me your thoughts.
Yeah,
that's ultimately, we all have dabbled in so many different conspiracies. There's so many rabbit holes we've all gone down, throughout our history of kind of delving into whatever it is, whether it's Gnostic, ancient, who killed JFK, 9/11. There's so many different conspiracies. But for me personally, Jeffery Wilson, the one that sits atop Mount Olympus, or Mount Ararat, as we'll get into later, is the question of who we are. Where did we come from? And not only just asking that question and delving into that, but then understanding that things are, like you said, Sam and Matt, you said things are so much older than what we've told. And then once we recognize that so many of our institutions, whether it's religious, political, spiritual, etc., academic, have all doubled down on this notion of like, nah, dude, 6,000 years, the Fertile Crescent, blah, blah, blah. And it's just so much bigger than that. And Sam, you've talked about this so many times on this show and the Conspiracy Social Club. They don't want us to know how dope we are. They want us to have this limited understanding of human history that's so linear, that we were just so simple and we're now so advanced now. And then you enter the notion, not to knock anything about Jesus or, but this notion of like, no, you're fallen, you're flawed because of this instance in the Garden of Eden, which when we get into, it's really an old story called the myth of Adapa. And so many of these stories about the Epic of Gilgamesh, the Enuma Elish, etc., the Eridu Genesis, these stories of our modern day religious stuff is really just rehashing a very, very old stuff. So what Matt has been doing, or people like Randall Carlson, Graham Hancock, like Graham Hancock's book, where Civilization with Amnesia, we're finding out more and more how old we really are and how we are Civilization with Amnesia, and how they have really kind of put forth so much effort to keep that from us. Like you said, it's hidden. But then the question is why? Yeah. And as Matt alluded to, these things have come and gone on these different, very calculable, if that's a word, calculable cycles of catastrophic cataclysms.
We love new words here on Tinfoil Hat, by the way. Anytime we're all into the old Sniglets segment. I don't know if you might be too young for that, but anytime you can make up a new word, we're going to run with a calculable.
Where's that? Sniglets?
Sniglets. It was an old sketch on HBO where he said there should be a word for something, and he would make up words. So the new word here today is calculable.
Oh, I like it.
I like it. Go on.
We can, again, that meaning we can calculate it through your soil samples, your ice core, like going back, like what Randall Carlson talks about, the black mat. We knew something happened through this. We saw this ash that was everywhere, but this is happening every, I don't want to throw out the wrong number, but let's just say 15,000, 17,000 years, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong. And we're honestly kind of due for another one. But this is what we're talking about in the larger presentation of what we're going to be talking about with our docu-series of Sumer to Atlantis. Things are so much older than what we've been told. And there's been these timelines of calculable events that have destroyed civilization. Now, whether you get into Graham Hancock or Randall Carlson stuff, that it might be a comet or the tail end of a comet or a meteor or asteroid, Matt has some. When he starts talking about the binary star system and how these cataclysmic events are more linked to a binary star system than it is the comets. Either way, whether Graham's right, Matt's right, Randall's right, these events are happening on a very discernible timeline. I'm sorry to ramble, but this is why so many of these cultures have created these underground cities, where it's Derinkuyu or Cappadocia, Turkey, or in China, or these underground cities where they knew something was coming. They, like Matt was mentioning, they know the celestial procession and the stars, and they were way more in tune to that, and we definitely are not. But that's what we're really going to get into with our docuseries we're presenting, is that the age of civilization, the timeline in which they come and go, and what might be causing these catastrophic events.
I love it. Matt, what are your thoughts? Where do you want to start?
So I guess one of the things that I think I wanted to add to what Jeff said, that was a nice little summary though, Jeff, is the reason we're here initially is that Jeff had this idea he brought to me to create a docuseries because of the body of research that we're about to present is very, very cutting edge. This isn't simply a notion of suggesting that civilizations are so-and-so age, and we already have that established. We're going to be going so much further than that. We're going to be taking this to a place of proving a missing link between so many of these advanced and lost civilizations we have evidence for that can be traced back to one place, with so many avenues that lead back to it, that it's like staggering. And so Jeffrey seeing the significance, and I started presenting this and I'm writing about it. And there's a lot of new stuff coming out that hasn't even been released yet. Like the Julian Dory show that I was just on as well. Those are all coming. But what this is that these archaeological discoveries that are just being found in Eastern Turkey. So it's not like something that's been studied for maybe like 30, 40 years. This is the newest kid in the block. This is the newest area that's been uncovered archaeologically in the world, that the mainstream archaeologists out of the University of Istanbul that are uncovering that believe that it's part of course, the wrong civilization they're attributing it to. What they don't know is that they have started to uncover what is part of a much grander civilization that I then went on a crusade over about 6 to 8 months of searching that area using every technological means that I could. And as well as research papers, and what I believe has uncovered an entire previously unknown to this point lost civilization that then eventually became what we know as Atlantis and ancient Egypt and Peru, and all of these other missing chapters of human civilization seem to be traced back to something that's only been uncovered in the last 5 to 10 years. Brand new cutting edge stuff, guys. And so Jeffrey brought me in. It's like, let's try to get funding for a docuseries where we can try to get on boots on the ground, visiting these sites, drone footage, trying to make a docuseries to literally change history. And so we wanted to come on the show and give you guys a tour of what we're about to present, to literally do something and link something that's never been linked before.
I'm all about this, bro. I'm in. You got me hooked. Take my dollars, please.
Right. So I have a presentation that, I mean, I want you to chime in and Jeff to chime in as we go along here. And I don't want to try to overwhelm everybody because it's like got a lot of information here. It's one of these things, though, that encompasses basically everything that I have been working with. Graham's been working with, Reynold Carlson, Robert Schoch, Robert Bivall, John T. West. This is a body of research that basically has come out of the sacrifice of so many other great researchers that have come before who have tried to basically link these together. And that I'm coming along like, okay, well, like these are sort of linked. Well, what other things link? And this is the brand new link that seems to be the missing link to everything else. So I'll go ahead and share, and I guess we can get started, because
all right, let's do it.
I think you're really gonna find this pretty compelling, Sam.
I'm excited. I am. Hidden history is my favorite subject. Guys, you love fresh, fun, festive, healthy meals?
Sure thing.
Well, then you're gonna love Factor, my friends, okay? Now that we're in the thick of summer, you might be looking for some wholesome, convenient meals to support your sunny, active days. Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit, can help you fuel up fast with flavorful, nutritious, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. You'll save time, eat well, and stay on track of reaching your goals.
And if you're ready to feel your best while making the most out of your summer adventures, stick to your wellness goals with premium ready-to-eat meals featuring high-quality ingredients such as broccolini, leeks, and asparagus. Treat yourself to more than 34 weekly restaurant-quality options like bruschetta, shrimp risotto, green goddess chicken, and grilled steakhouse filet mignon. Ready in just 2 minutes. Amazing. Wow. Too busy running around during the day to think about lunch? Keep your energy up with Lunch to Go. These are effortless, wholesome meals like grain bowls and salad toppers that are ready to eat when you're on the go. No microwave required. Sounds like just the kind of thing we need at the studio, Sam.
I love it. Let's do it.
Looking for calorie-conscious options this summer? Try delicious, dietitian-approved, calorie-smart meals with around or less than 550 calories per serving. And if you need an extra boost to support your wellness goals, you should try the Protein Plus meals with 30 grams of protein or more per serving.
This July, get Factor and enjoy eating well without the hassle. Simply choose your meals and enjoy fresh, flavor-packed meals delivered to your door. Ready in just 2 minutes, no prep, no mess, okay? Head to factormeals.com/tinfoil50 and use the code tinfoil50 to get 50% off. Damn, that's a lot. That's code tinfoil50 at factormeals.com/tinfoil50 to get 50% off. Grub and love.
Okay, now I want to just emphasize before we start here. Jeff has seen some of this and like blew his mind, so he wanted to get in here and be incorporated in this project that we're doing right now. But this is the body of work that goes into that. Now, every image I have on here is meticulously picked. It's not like I thought some image from somewhere looked good, so I added it in here. Every single thing you see is from these new discoveries or from these sites I'm talking about. So those images right there are directly from at the top, underwater ruins and ancient reliefs of ancient kings from a region of Eastern Turkey that is basically this unknown civilization as we get started. And I believe is the missing link to all this. Sam, you ready?
Yeah.
So getting started, we've talked a lot about like the first cities ever created on Earth. You know, we look at the body of text that was left behind. And I want to just point out, we got to remember that when we consider things like the Christian texts and other things like that, remember paper can only last 500 to 1,000 years. Considering the idea that, you know, things like metal corrodes and a lot of the materials we use in our world would not survive more than a couple thousand years if some catastrophe came through and wiped us all out. There really wouldn't be that much left. And that's the idea here, is that there is their entire civilization that was at least a maritime superpower civilization that went all around the world and created things that even we can't create today, like the Great Pyramids of Giza. And that's linking back to this work right here. And I think what is so compelling is that in the case of us being mostly digital right now and mostly paper records, we really wouldn't have much of anything left behind if something happened to us and then another culture came and rose out of the jungle or the forest and found the remnants of us. There wouldn't be much. But this civilization was so highly advanced that they left behind these massive megalithic stone structures like temples and pyramids all around the world, as well as these ancient stone and clay tablets that they etched in their stories and what happened in the ancient past. And so what we're doing is we're taking this story that has been left behind, and then we're adding to it with this missing link now that's been uncovered. And that's really what comes out of this, Sam.
All right, I'm excited. This area is super interesting. A lot of ancient history in this Fertile Crescent, excuse me. And if you're asking me, based on my feelings, a lot of the wars that we're seeing right now is about cleaning up a lot of all the clues of our past.
Yeah,
you just stole what I was about to say, brother. They're archaeological wars, without a doubt.
I 100% believe that. 100%.
Yeah, and what you're going to see is we're going to have evidence of some of these critical sites that link this have already been destroyed. And so it's very interesting.
They don't keep none of it. Like, you know how the Catholic Church has a bunch of artifacts that aren't theirs. They don't keep them no more. They just get rid of them. Might as well get rid of them.
I mean, you have
the Catholic Church has the Vatican archives, where they basically have amassed a wealth of Mayan and Aztec artifacts, as well as artifacts all from Mesopotamia and throughout the ancient world are down in these archives. And it's considered to be this library of basically the church. And they are supposedly, it's one of these places along with the Smithsonian where forbidden archaeological things and things that don't fit sort of get thrown, get put down in there and put on a shelf and then are.
Bro, if I ever take over the world, first war. We're going into the Vatican Library, whether you want me to or not.
That would be a great
Right,
war.
right.
Get
Well,
out
even
of the
kind of alluding
way,
what-
Jesuits.
That Vatican army, you know.
Yeah, get out of the way. Daddy's got to see what's down there.
Are you taking
bro.
me and Johnny with you?
You want? You can be on the front line, dog, if you want. I don't care, bro. But
going.
we're going, dude.
Actually, be the only guy killed in
But
the war.
kind of what
That's
XG was asking, like we see a lot of structure. It's like a lot of what Matt's alluding to is like the ancient text, the cuneiform that they've hidden in the British Library or the Vatican. But like sites like Persepolis or places like Eridu, like we've seen the Acropolis, even though it looks like crap and it's younger. But like where are these actual structures? But they've been decimated and they've been allowed to be decimated. Specifically Eridu. Matt's talked about it a whole bunch in the Sumerian Kings list. The first line was when kingship was lowered from heaven, heaven was in Eridu. That's the first pre-Diluvian city that we pretty much know of. But like XG, to answer your question from my side of it, they just destroyed any kind of relic that or physical structure that was there. But they took, same thing with like the Library of Alexander, even Persepolis. They didn't burn it. They burned the structure, but they took what was in there and hid it away.
Yeah, essentially what we're looking at, guys, is a history that's been attempted to be eradicated since the Holy Roman Empire for several thousand years now. This history has been eradicated in different ways, and one of the ways that is interesting, I do want to bring up, that we're going to sadly see, is they do what's called an accidental event during like a civil war or something, and you're going to see that in Turkey and some of these sites that in Syria that were destroyed accidentally, or they leave the site to just looters and then those people that can just take things so they disappear. There's two things that go on here. You don't see them with bulldozers as part of the government doing it. It would be like something like ISIS bulldozing it. That is like a proxy.
A great example of that is what, and Jeff, you might know this, is what they were talking about in Minnesota, in Minneapolis. There was supposedly like a Minneapolis agent Agenda 2030 or something like that. They wanted to do a lot of like getting rid of like just destroying the area so that they could just buy it up for pennies on a dollar. If you get into the whole money laundering that's going on with the, that bar that everybody worked at and all the evidence. Well, guess what? Police station got burned down. The place with all the evidence of the money laundering and all that stuff. So
You talking about as it relates to the George Floyd thing?
Yeah.
well, yeah, it relates to just like there's a bigger agenda, they said, in Minneapolis, which was this Minneapolis 2030, which was like they wanted to flip it as a just to try to see if they could. So yeah, I think this is a playbook that they do a lot.
Basically, it's like this area has a number of different reasons on why the Iraq War and the Syrian Civil War occurred. Obviously, there's petroleum resources and mineral resources. There's political agendas here. There's of course there's ancient sites though as well. And I think that as we go along, I want people to understand that this area is incredibly mysterious. What I have uncovered, and I firmly believe, is that what happened here with this lowering of kingship and civilization emerging with inventing everything that we know today: mathematics, agriculture, metallurgy, animal husbandry, understanding basically everything in our reality came from Sumer. But I believe that there's been multiple periods of rises and falls here of civilization, and what we think of as some of these sites that we're about to talk about are much older, and they're about to connect to a story that has been nearly lost. And it's a story of when civilization was handed down and created here, not by nomadic hunter-gatherers, but literally an entire chapter of us that became lost. And that's what this body of work is. Now, I have a map here that shows question marks, because the question marks, if you look at this map, it's because we have no idea what happened to this sophistication that emerged from this region. It went somewhere, but it was unknown really where it went, because what we find around the world are these mysterious structures that seem to be created with a precision and understanding that we even can't do today. The Great Pyramid of Giza is 2.5 million stone blocks with an average of 10 tons each that would have taken a civilization something like, infinite amounts of manpower with hundreds of blocks a day. It would have been impossible. We do not understand how they built those structures. And we don't understand how they built many, many others around the world, like at Ollantaytambo or Sacsayhuaman or Cusco in Peru, down through Egypt, and in this area of Turkey we're about to get to, and other places like Greece. There's a story here that's lost. a chapter of civilization that seemed to spread around the world, that knew incredible things, that built these massive, massive temples, and they were all destroyed by catastrophes around the world. And the remnants are just what we're trying to figure out. These little fragments of a history that wants to be known. And that's what I believe these new sites link, is this whole forgotten story. And it begins, though, with understanding where we started. And where we started comes from these cuneiform tablets that were found amassed in these massive library called the Ashurbanipal Library that was found in 1849 in Nineveh, Mosul area of Iraq, one of the most destabilized areas of the world now. And what it was a huge, enormous collection of over 40,000 cuneiform tablets that told our story about civilization being created, these great Anuna gods that came here, and then we were these powerful beings of the basically of the universe, and that we forgot who we were, and that these stories talk about how there were ancient kings that lived for thousands of years. They were part of certain bloodlines that then carried on and spread around the world, and they were the sages that then created these civilizations that we think of. And this is where it begins, though. It begins in Eridu, because Eridu is where they say the first city ever created on Earth was here. And yet, as of 1948, has been completely abandoned by mainstream archaeologists and only partially excavated. There's a story underlying here that doesn't want to be known. And the story is that this site is going to prove to be not 6,000 years old, not 10,000 years old, but maybe more than 50,000 years old. It's like a lost chapter of us that we almost can't comprehend now. But the point I'm trying to make here, guys, is that this was previously considered a myth and a legend in these tablets. Everything was. They were myths and legends. They weren't real. And yet then we found Eridu. And hush, hush, they just kind of whispered they found it and they only partially uncovered it. And then they left it to the wolves and it's been abandoned.
That is crazy. If they think that is the first city of civilization, they're like, we're done here. Wrap it up. We're gone.
That's the same thing with Troy. Troy was considered to be a myth, like the Trojan War. Like there was no archaeological. And then they find it.
What's the evidence of it being 50,000 years old?
Oh, these gonna get into that.
Yeah, well, I'm just.
The evidence that we're gonna get to is there's a history here that seems to have been repeated over and over again. Some civilizations have built on previous structures. Yeah. Some structures have been buried by mud and like sealed away and locked away from time. Those two things seem to be happening. Now, Eridu is always described as being the first city ever created. But when you go through all the kings list, whether or not it's from Sumer, Akkadian, Babylonian, or even up into this Eastern Ararat, like Vaughn area that we're going to get into, you find this core truth that seems to echo that these kings are far more ancient than we understand, and that this city is ancient. And we're going to get into that in a second, but this is an entire chapter of history that we don't even consider real anymore today. But it was found, and there's artifacts in the British Museum today. And we know, and I've gone through a whole crusade on this. You can see my campaign to save Eridu. I've done tons of shows like showing people actively looting it, all the things going on at the site. But this is the most important archaeological site in the world, in my opinion. And it's the biggest conspiracy of any site in the world.
Let's go. I'm in, dude. I'm excited.
That's episode 1 in the docuseries.
But there's more, guys. This is just the tip of the iceberg. It's just the beginning. This is site 1 that then links a story that doesn't want to be known. Now, remember, so Eridu was found. It's been basically ignored, and tablets are sticking out of the ground, and people are in these images, these looters that are uploading them. I've shown this on previous videos I've done and shows like Open Minds on Gaia, but people are finding these tablets and just taking them out of the ground and then just selling them on the black market. It's like our most important stories in history of our entire species is being left to the wolves. And that's exactly what's happening right now.
Unbelievable.
Now, that's part 1 of our history being hidden. Here's part 2. There's 5 cities that are talked about as being the first cities ever created on Earth. And then there was a disaster and they were all wiped out. That's what the tablets all state. Eridu is the first. But the last city on that is where this whole story links. Now, previously considered a myth, just like Eridu, in 1931, they found Shuruppak. And they started excavating it. And what they found was that Sam, think about this for a second. The stories of this city was that a catastrophe came through with a wall of water and mud so intense that it wiped out and buried the city and left it for forever forgotten to time. Here's what's so fascinating. In 1931, they find the ruins, the location by using different means. They have to excavate and dig down 45 to 50 feet. That's an image right there of Shuruppak digging down to get to the ruins in the bottom of 50 feet of mud. 50 feet. Just like the stories of a great flood describe, is that this was supposed to be the remnants of of a previous version of us that was built, that had these like royal kingships handed down with these royal Anuna gods and all these things going on the earth at the time, and that this was the last city on earth before a catastrophe wiped everybody out. And that's where the question marks had previously come in. And this is where my body of work had come in, studying these kings lists and the bloodlines, trying to figure out, did anybody survive from this time period? That's where we go next.
Let's go. L'Estad Gustando Mi Podcast.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
that
dog.
works.
I am so excited to be working with Babbel. As you know, I want to speak multiple languages. So when I'm just roaming the lands using Krav Maga Jiu-Jitsu, Thai boxing to just basically lock stuff down like a Ronin, okay, I'm going to need to be able to talk to different people in different languages, okay? I'll lose XG at some point with his bad knees, so I won't have him there to speak Spanish, okay? So I want you guys to hear about Babbel. Now, why Babbel to learn a language? Well, because Babbel works. It's that simple. Instead of paying hundreds of dollars for a private tutor or fooling yourself with language apps that are a little more than just a game, Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons are designed by 150 language experts to help you start speaking a new language in less than 3 weeks. Guys, I didn't even know there were 150 languages. I thought there was like 4. Right? I mean, it's that amazing. So Babbel is designed by real people for real conversations. All of Babbel's tips and tools are for learning a new language that are approachable, accessible, rooted in real life, and delivered with conversational-based teachings, okay? I love doing it, all right? I love speaking Spanish. I want to learn that, and eventually I'd like to learn a couple other languages. I'm trying. I spend a little time every day trying to go deep, okay? Studies from Yale, Michigan State University, and others continue to prove Babbel is better. For instance, one study found that using Babbel for 15 hours is equivalent to 1 full semester of college. With over 10 million subscribers sold, Babbel is a real language learning for real conversation. So here's what's special. Okay, for a limited time deal, okay, for our listeners to get you started right now, get 55% off. That's a double nickel off, okay? Your Babbel subscription, but only for our listeners at babbel.com/tinfoil. Get 50% off babbel.com/tinfoil, spelled BABBEL.com/tinfoil. Rules and restrictions may apply. Hey guys, I want to tell you about our friends at Black Buffalo. That's right. Black Buffalo is an award-winning tobacco alternative. Okay, Black Buffalo is everything you love, nothing that you don't. The feel, the taste, the ritual, just without the actual tobacco leaf or stem. Black Buffalo is actually made from a variety of green leaves and cabbage. That's right. It's what loyalty means to you, and the brand exists with dip. Do you got me what I'm talking about? Loyal to you, loyal to us, loyal to everything, okay? You take pride in what you do, take pride in what you dip, honor your rituals with Black Buffalo. Black Buffalo makes all the best flavors like wintergreen, mint, straight, peach, and even blood orange with or without pharmaceutical grade nicotine. That's right. You can buy Black Buffalo online at blackbuffalo.com with the promo code TINFOIL, okay? or at thousands of retail locations across the country by checking out the store locator on their website. Okay. Bam, 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 bam. Listen, dude, you guys got to have loyalty, and loyalty is with you, with your favorite brands that exist with dip. Okay. It's just that so simple. So here's what we need you to do. If you're over 21 and use products like this, it's time to join the Black Buffalo herd. Head to blackbuffalo.com. Use the promo code TINFOIL at checkout for 15% off your first order. Use my code TINFOIL for 15% off your first order. One last time, that's promo code TINFOIL for 15% off your first order.
So, Jeff, you want to say anything before I get going here?
No, absolutely. You're on a roll, brother. Hate to interrupt you.
So, Sam, the stories of this entire epic of our time are incredible. And I want to go back to this. Now, these two tablets are the best two examples of describing this time period, but there are many others that are also echo it, like the legend of Itsubar and Eridu Genesis and others. Now, what you're seeing on the left is called the Atrahasis, and on the right is the Epic of Gilgamesh. Now, these tablets are, in my opinion, we could get rid of all the rest of them if we had to, and these would provide us a means to still understand our history. They're so fundamentally important. First of all, they're enormous. The Epic of Gilgamesh is one of many, many tablets, just like the Atrahasis is. Many, many tablets that go in line like a story, like chapters in a book. And that's exactly what these are. So the Epic of Gilgamesh is not simply just one story. It's a collection of stories as part of his journey as an ancient king of the city of Uruk, which was supposed to be a myth that was then also found as well. I want to point that out. So in these stories, what happens is it states that those first 5 cities are created, and they're ruled by a royal bloodline of kings that descended from the gods, these royal demigods, and they lived for thousands of years. And that's where all the gifts that we have came from. These telekinesis gifts and these gifts of our mind that we don't know how to use yet, that we've lost. They came from here. And they were part of this time period of these bloodline kings that descended down, and they ruled these 5 cities. They describe how the 5th city, known as Sharupak, was the last city before a catastrophe came through and wiped it out. And that the last king of this city was who became the biblical figure of Noah. Okay? The biblical Genesis figure that we considered Noah came from these stories. That Genesis flood is this, except they manipulated it and turned it into a silly story. Don't ignore that for a second, but just understand that it exists in its form, and understand that some of the information pertaining to that, like the bloodline stuff, is relevant, but not like 2 of every animal of every kind. That's just silly. So in this, it states that there was an ancient king known as Ubaratutu, and that his son was Noah, and that he became the last king, and that before the catastrophe came through, he had this specific bloodline that was very important. He was warned that a catastrophe was going to come through that was going to basically wipe out almost all of mankind. And he built this craft, and everything is described that him and his family and his 3 sons, I want to make that super clear that we remember that, 3 sons went and survived a catastrophe, and everything was destroyed. And in those stories,
Shem, Ham, and Japheth, those names. That's the names of the 3 sons. Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Or the
Shem?
Shem, S-H-E-M, Ham, H-A-M, and Japheth, J-A-P-E-T-H.
Yes.
I know where you were, Sam.
So
Shut up.
in these tablets, and ignore the biblical versions for a minute, but of course make the parallel comparisons, is that here's Mount Ararat in eastern Turkey near the Armenian border, 17,000 feet high. It's a huge mountain. It's the highest mountain outside of the Himalayas and the Caucasus range of outside of that. Supposedly, like, he lands on this, and the world is flooded by like tsunamis and tectonic changes, and the world is like in chaos. And it's described that he lands here, and that another version of civilization emerged somewhere around here. And that's where I'd been stuck for like 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Stuck. Didn't know where to go. How the heck does Atlantis tie in at all to Sumer? How does the ancient Athenian pre-Greeks tie in? How does ancient Peru tie in? How does Egypt tie in? How does any of it tie in? This is how it ties in. this is what's so exciting. This is why Jeff and I are doing this docuseries. In the last couple of years, they've made archaeological discoveries in Eastern Turkey that have, I believe, will change all of history forever. Now, they don't know what they're finding. They're only excavating right now. The only ongoing active site really that's being excavated is what's called Zernaki Tepe. The other two I found by accident or at least searching for them, and they're really not even being touched. Now, remember for a minute, Sam, in these ancient stories, there's a bloodline king and his sons that are descended from like this great race of humans that are largely wiped out. And he supposedly lands here in Mount Ararat, but then we don't hear anything from him ever again. There's never a cuneiform tablet ever written again that tells what happened that survived. But it makes you wonder, for instance, in the Ashurbanipal library that those tablets came from, they found, well over 20, 30,000 tablets, but we only know of several hundred that have ever been translated today. So maybe these stories are there and that we just have never been shown them. But that's what's exciting, is that this area opens the whole thing up, because imagine this, Sam, the stories state that Noah, this figure known as Utanapishtim or Zayasudra in those texts, he lands on this mountain. The world is in chaos with flooding. Yeah. And the Inuna gods descend down. Enlil descends down and is furious in these tablets in the Atrahasis. Says no man was supposed to survive the flood. They want to destroy all mankind. And he says, how could a man survive? And Enki comes down and says to him, I warned him because he is a bloodline descendant of me. I warned him so he could just survive the flood. And there's an agreement made where from that point on, humans only live a very short amount of time, 120 years or less. It's called, and you find out through the death of Billigames and Epic of Gilgamesh and Atrahasis that they basically take immortality away from humans in this story. That's why the ancient humans were considered like demigods. They take immortality away. We have to live younger, but they also, what they do is they share ownership with these different bloodline sons that then travel around the world and create all of these civilizations. And this is the proof that we're about to get to in a second for that.
Well, this is the root of what Matt has often talked about as far as the eagle versus the serpent as well. Exactly. Enlil versus Enki, the most ancient sibling rivalry ever on the path of humanity. And Sam, not to get too deep into it, but I think that's almost the same, a more modern iteration, the Malachians versus Luciferians. It's essentially like the path of, the path of humanity, essentially.
So,
go ahead, brother.
So I typed in one of these, the Canvalis Tempe or whatever, and it just looks like they found something and they just let it go. Why are they not? Do they not have enough Mexicans? What's the reason on not?
This is just like Eridu. Okay, just like
Eridu. Same with Eridu. Yeah,
they go in, they identify that this is this mythical city of Eridu, and they uncover only part of the city. Now, there's this temple complex called the Ziggurat of Eridu, where all of the goodies would be. We'll call them goodies, right? All the tablets and ornaments and precious things would be, and they never even touched it. Imagine them, they get there, they find the city part, and then this great temple's above it on a mountain, and they get talked to. That somebody tells them this is off limits, and they leave and they never come back. These sites, what you're going to find is that the University of Istanbul in Western Turkey, they're doing some projects, and a few others are doing some projects where they don't know what they've found. They're uncovering something they think is part of, and the name is right there, the Eurasian civilization. Just like we see all around the world with the Hittites or the Romans or the Inca, anywhere in the world, the ancient stuff that's highly sophisticated was not done by them. They came along and found the ruins and then built on top of them. We see the same thing here from what's called the Eurasian civilization. They had nothing to do with these structures other than they knew they were incredibly important, and they know that they connected back to their ancestors. That's what they knew, and they tried to mimic it. I'm just showing you this as a map, as an overview. Now, Let me give you a couple stats. Sam, go ahead.
No. I was agreeing with what you were saying.
This lake is called Lake Van. It's in far eastern Turkey near the Armenian border. It's one of the highest elevation large lakes in the world.
Real quick, just so you know, I'm Armenian and I am from I am Russian Armenian, and we are from Van. My family is
no
from
way,
Van.
really?
Yeah. So my people are
from
right
now.
area.
Very beautiful.
Wow.
You were made to you may be a descendant, Sam, of what is called the lost civilization. I'm calling it of the Ararat civilization.
And the reason,
Get it, boy.
and there is, I think, I'm not trying to blow my own horn here, but I do
Toot,
think
toot.
there is something here about why you're seeing these globalists, right? You have Israel sending Turkey and Azerbaijan these super high-end weapons. And why has there been a genocide of Armenia? All this stuff kind of fits into this idea that Matt is presenting and Jeffrey is presenting right now, which is that they're trying to wipe out anything of the past. And that would fit into why there's been this kind of crazy attack on Armenia. And I am from the area of Vaughan.
And these areas of conflict, and as we've spoken about many times on the farm, when you see these areas of conflict, whether it's in this area, this is all a part of China's Belt and Road too. And what do you think they're going to do as they go through and smash through Eurasia? They're going to be cleaning up shop just like, they've been doing all throughout this area, trying to conceal this stuff.
Well, but here's the thing, Sam. I want to make this super clear. I don't think the old tactics of the past work anymore. I think we're at the end of an era. I don't think that these sites are going to be able to be bombed and destroyed. I think that time period is now done. And I think we can see what's going on right now with how connected everyone is socially. This is a bubbling cauldron that is about to blow. And we're going to blow it open right now because it's going to come. You can't stop it any longer. Now, let me show you what I mean. Before, I know that I'm getting excited. Some people are like, well, I don't understand what's so exciting about this. Let me break it down here. When ancient tablet stories from Sumer match something you find thousands of miles away in the place that it's described as being, you start to pay attention. Not only that, but then if you find in those sites where there's supposed to be this link, you then find remnants, which we have just found. And that's the whole point, is what you're seeing, guys, this image on the screen. These are remnants, ruins that are 5 to 10 years old. That's it. This is brand new. This is the most brand new archaeological finds in the world. I know people are the news of Central America in the jungles finding those ruins. That is important. Love it. But that's from an earlier time period in ancient history. That's not nearly as significant as this. I think maybe that's why those get so much attention, actually, by the way.
Probably.
Because none of this is on the news. Now, the point I'm trying to make is these depictions right here come from a site called Kef Kalesi that exactly match what we find the release from ancient Sumer in Iraq. The wings, the horns, the pine cone being passed, the eagle at the top, and the lion. These we find absolutely like a reemergence of Sumer here out of nowhere. And think about it. It's the bloodline son of an ancient Sumerian king that was supposedly him and his sons land here. And then they have like this divine knowledge that something emerges that actually didn't even exist before. And I want to emphasize that the type of technology and the type of megaliths that emerges is not like it was before. That's why Eridu had bricks and looked kind of primitive, because all of a sudden after this, we see the emergence of gigantic megalithic basalt and granite stones with like diamond-like precision cutting and perfection. Look at this box in front of you. This box is found from Kef Kalesi. Is made out of extremely hard stone. It's granitic. It might even be basalt, and it is cut in such a precise way that it's like we find in a lot of these other incredible megas around the world. But it emerges here out of nowhere. Remember, the bloodline descendants, they land here, and Anuna gods say that they're going to create. They have an agreement to create civilizations and branch off. Civilizations of the eagle right here, Enlil, create the civilizations we're about to see that then become the ancient Athenians, Greeks with Zeus. And then we're about to see the emergence that goes through Egypt and eventually through Mali and the Mauritania, Africa, that becomes the Atlanteans. And then the Peruvians and all of that. So we're going to get there in a second. But what I'm showing you is here we have in Kefkalesi in Turkey at this one of these sites that I'm going to show you in a second, more images. This gigantic rock box was found. And it supposedly is this god Haldi that is exactly in the same descriptions as Enlil from Sumer. Same thing. And he's got the eagles, he's got the lion, he's got all these things. And it's the same description as Enlil descending down in this. So the whole thing matches up. And it's kind of wild because God Haldi or Kaldi, they sometimes have a K, is this first link that then matches up. You start paying attention. You're like, so Sumer's here all of a sudden out of nowhere. Here's Kefkalesi on top of this mountain above the lake. Now, those stones you're seeing there are significant. I want to explain why. Those are made of what's called basalt. It's one of the hardest stones in the world. And that matters because if you have tools that are softer than the stone you're working with, you can't manipulate them at all. You can't even carve them.
Dude, it's
let alone
crazy.
anything else. Right, Sam? And what you
They
see
look like
here,
styrofoam. That's how cut they are.
they're perfect. That's the point, is they're perfect. And they're right below a massive volcano. And that's where these stones came from. Now, that box relief was found right below this. There's just like remnants of an ancient kingdom. Okay, so this is Kefkalesi. Sam, do you see anything there that is indicative of any kind of archaeological work or anything being done with fences or anything on that site at all?
Nope.
Nothing. Look at it. It's sitting there.
So
I could
crazy,
go
right?
now with you, Jeff, and we could hike up there, like hike up this mountain and just stand there and like be there, like in one of the most important ancient sites on earth.
That's so
Open
crazy.
season. It is.
I mean, what's the mount that they have here in that snake mount that they have in the United States? They don't
Yeah.
take care of that either.
Yeah.
It's just open. They don't have
Yeah,
have a fence. They
yeah.
just that is weird.
So
They
this
don't care that
this
you ruin
site,
it.
guys, has not been identified or being worked at all. I found this by searching through satellite images and walking through this region. It was just so this is not something where it's being identified and being worked. This is coming from cutting edge new stuff that is from this region that's emerging right now. Now, this is
Who
part of
is
the
that
same
guy
site.
doing the weird hand signals? Who is that guy?
No, he's holding an artifact.
Oh,
He's holding, yeah, he's holding like a coin or something in his hand. Now, I want to point out what's fascinating is, guys, look, this is up on top of the mountain. It's the same site, Kefkalesi. This came from right where there's another part of the temple city at the lakefront. This is underwater in Lake Vaughn.
Whoa.
Okay.
Something was there, baby. Something was there.
So now
Something was
imagine
there.
temples, a civilization so grand that they have these huge temples up on a mountain, right? Incredible. And then there's like a city right below it on the shoreline. And then underwater is another set of ruins of a temple that used to be at the shore of the lake. Like they had a temple right on the edge of the lake. And now it's deep underwater in the bottom of the lake. Okay.
Jeez.
Now, this site, they're in total, archaeologists are in total confusion. There's an article written online because this is, guys, look at the date, 2017. This is just found. They just went underwater and they found these giant megaliths. You see how they match the megalith blocks up on the mountain?
Yeah.
They're diving around down here and they're like, wait a minute. In the article, they actually have some quotes. They say they admit that if the Eurasian civilization had created this, how could it be on the bottom of Lake Vaughn? Didn't make any sense. The Eurasian civilization is only several thousand years old. It didn't make sense. And then in the article, they further stated that when the lake was low enough before the last ice age, in order for them to build this, it would have been 15,000 years ago. You're looking at the remnants of ruins that are at least 15,000 years ago, but I believe they're well over 20,000 years ago. These ruins right here. Now look at how they're spread, Sam. Imagine grand temples sitting on a mountain. And imagine tsunamis coming through miles high, just wiping this out and having these be strewn all over the place. You're like looking at a snapshot of over 20,000 years ago, what was just been left there. And I believe that the reason the Eurasian civilization didn't build up here is that this is an incredibly sacred site and they weren't supposed to touch it. That's my opinion. So Sam, again, underwater ruins here proves that this is more ancient than we're told.
Yeah.
Now here's the next site found in 2014. Excavations are just ongoing at the northern end of the lake. Right now is Zernaki Tepe. And that's another emergence of a gigantic temple complex on top of a small little mountain overlooking the lake. And all three of these sites, which we're about to get to the third one in a second, form a lost civilization that then this architecture, see these megaliths? That looks exactly like something we'd see in Peru. What you see in the background. Whereas something like that is exactly like something you'd see like in Egypt or in some other places. So we're going to get to that in a minute. But this is basically just found. They don't know what they have, but it's highly precise, and it's part of this about this missing civilization. Now let's get to the best one of all. This was previously shown online on social media for a couple of weeks as being a Peruvian site, and as like an example as the best precision of any megaliths in the world. But this isn't from Peru. This is from Kavis Tepe in Turkey, part of the trifecta of sites that creates the lost Ararat civilization. Now, Sam, that's the same basalt like we see here, except even perfected to a greater level. Look at the work. Look at the work on those blocks. It's polished to a degree that's like even unlike to the best that we could even do today.
I mean, with basalt, like 90-degree right angles like that, using supposedly Bronze Age tools. Come on.
It seems, are they from two different time periods, do you think?
So here's what happened. Notice how the way that these blocks look right now. They're strewn all over the place, right? At this site here, this was ruled by King Hake, who was a king who tried to rebuild after another catastrophe and tried to put this back together. So those, you see the lighter, look at the lighter colored blocks in the center that form in the blocks. They tried to mimic them with limestone, though, one of the softest stones on earth. They tried to mimic them with those blocks and put them back together, but they just had no idea what to do. This is their best attempt to try to rebuild that time period of history. See all the stuff in the background, Sam, that's like whiter stone?
Yeah.
That's the work of the Eurasian civilization. See how primitive it is in comparison?
Wow.
So that's the civilization they think they're uncovering. The University of Istanbul and archaeologists. That very crude work back there with limestone compared to the work in the front, which is what we find mimicked in Egypt and in Peru as we go along.
Yeah, that's crazy.
What does an archaeologist tell you between if we were there and Sam was like, why are these two different colors? What would he tell you?
Just explained.
No. A real, like a school teacher, like I'm talking like someone.
What would their be excuse?
Yeah, what would their excuse to be? They just run out of color, or like
they would have no way to describe it. In fact, if I was to ask him, how would Bronze Age tools be able to manipulate basalt stones, considering they're much softer? They would have no, and that's one of the angles that Jeff and I wanted to do as part of this docuseries, was actually interview maybe someone from one of the universities in the archaeology department and ask those questions. How can basalt that's an 8 or a 9 on the Mohs hardness scale out of 10, hardest stone in the world, how can it be manipulated by primitive copper and bronze tools that wouldn't even be able to touch it, being able to manipulate it at all? It's the same thing we find in Egypt and Peru. Okay.
So they would use the proof that it's actually significant to dismiss it, is what you're saying, right? Like that,
we would basically ask how it's basic logic.
They would use that as evidence that it can't be from that time, when in fact it's evidence that it's incredibly significant.
But they wouldn't say that, and they wouldn't admit it. What they would say is maybe I don't know how it was done. Or something.
We're not quite sure yet. We're still trying to figure that out.
Well, and that's what's so beautiful about the archaeological discoveries. There's no ambiguity to it. There's no conspiratorial kind of theory about it. Like, how did basalt get cut in such a precision fashion by Bronze Age tools? You just can't deny it. So to answer there's no way they could answer it, quite frankly. They'd have to acknowledge it because it's right in front of them, but they can't say how it got there.
If you were to cut that stone right there, knowing how physics works, understanding the properties of physics and the Mohs hardness scale, I'm telling you, without a doubt, we know that these blocks right here in front of you, the blocks we see in parts of Peru, like Ollantaytambo, Sacsayhuaman, and in Valley Temple in parts of Egypt, and in some other parts of the world as well, we know that we have remnants of tool marks on some of them. We know that it was some kind of a diamond-tipped saw. Because in Egypt, in Abu Rawash, in parts of the Giza Plateau, there are these marks on some of them left behind, and these core drill holes that are perfect. So we know that they had to have had some kind of a high level of technology to make these, but we've never found any tools ever today, ever, that have ever survived.
This reminds me of in Detroit, where the bears move into the houses and they're like, this is my new cave. And you're like, well, you're just moving into something that was there before you found it, which is kind of what they did with all the different pyramids. They're like, these people just showed up, and kind of like how Matt talked before on his past appearances, how they just try to basically co-op it and try to figure it out how it works.
Yeah, that's
which they couldn't, and just tried to rebuild on top of it.
Exactly. Now, the fascinating point, take all of that into account right now, and take into account that this emerged here with nothing around it. And it's exactly telltale of this ancient king bloodline landing here and then having to restart civilization again. That's basically what we're looking at. Now, remember, bloodlines again. The descendants in biblical descendants are considered, there's a famous descendant of the three sons of Noah, of the Ziasudra that landed there. One of them is Japheth, and in the king list from Cavus Tepe. So if you go to Cavus Tepe and you find out that there was a king list uncovered, a stone king list from this site you're seeing right in front of you, and it says it was ruled by King Hake, and you go on Google right now and you type in King Hake, you'll find on Wikipedia on the site, I know because I've gone there a million times, it's just right, it's right in front of you. It says King Hake, a descendant of Japheth, who was a son of Noah, who was a son of Ziasudra from Sumer, an ancient king. It's right there. It's like staring in the face. It's ridiculous. These are the lost son, the ancestors, the bloodline sons of the Noah figure that truly did spread out and create this super civilization that was then wiped out. And this is evidence of that, because it's showing you that these styles of architecture that are then mimicked around the world, and these king lists and some genetic testing we'll get into in a minute, all lead back to this one area of the world right here in eastern Turkey at Lake Van, where Sam apparently is like one of these Ararat descendants that I guess.
Yeah, it's crazy. I keep looking up if there's a village. My aunt told me I'm from the village of Armenia. There is an Armenian village. I guess it's right around there.
Keep in mind that technically this is in eastern Turkey. Armenia's close, though. It's like very, very close.
Okay. All right. Gotta make.
Wait. So you're Turkish, actually?
No, don't say that, Johnny. Come on.
Jiminy Christmas, Johnny. You speak poison with two
Johnny.
tongues. What are you saying?
Guess who's no longer an intern on a show?
Wait.
Go run that fuck.
So that place that you said that
that's
said
where
he
my
was
aunt
from
told me I'm from.
is in Turkey.
That's where my aunt told me I was from. So I gotta clear that up with her and find out.
Borders don't matter; they're irrelevant. It's just silly.
Shut up, Johnny. You
It's just the
redneck
Armenian
piece of shit.
okay?
Wait, borders.
Okay, so listen, this is fascinating, because remember what I just told you. This is just a 1472 document that's from an ancient Hebrew Bible, and it tells you, it's showing you the bloodlines of Noah and how they spread out all around the world to create civilization. It's right here. And remember what I just said a second ago?
Whoa!
Look at Europe. Look at Europe with the arrow guys.
Oh, yeah.
Japheth took Europe. Asia Minor Europe is exactly where we see the descendant kings right here of being in. Okay, it's exactly mimics this. Then the Great Pyramids of Egypt, it says that Sham went down and created all of what we think of as Egypt. You know, it's kind of funny, guys. Egypt used to be called the land of Kem or Kemet. Shem and Kem is a very similar name, if you ask me. Okay, now look at Asia. Asia not being, don't think of like more of like Mongolia. Think of Asia as being like India, and down to Southeast Asia with like Angkor Wat. Look at one of the descendants went that way. Well, we find ancient ruins in all of those places leading out like a line. Coming back to Eastern Turkey, so that these three sons descended from right here. This is it. It's where it all began. This is where our entire lost story truly began. After the Sumerian civilizations had been destroyed, it emerged here again, and in Kish, but mostly here, and then branched off to create the grandest civilizations that have ever lived. And it emerged here.
Kish being, not to qualify, but Kish being the first post-Diluvian. after the flood. Kish was the first basically version
And
of Eridu. Eridu, yeah.
These at the same time. It seems that these were coexisting at the same time. There was an attempt to reestablish civilization down there as well in Kish. Yes. And that's a whole nother part of the story to go through. But the point is, here we go. Here's that emergence of Kish that you just brought up. In Iraq, all of a sudden we see megaliths emerging that had come out of nowhere with giant megaliths or giant writing from cuneiform, and then these huge rock reliefs like we start seeing emerge into Petra, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and India. Well, the point is the architecture and the styles emerges here and then starts spreading around the world.
Is that in the rock? They have those. Is that the king in the rock?
So these holes are they're bombed out by like ISIS and terrorist groups.
Right, but that image above that first hole on the far left.
It's a relief sculpture, yeah.
Yes, yes.
Oh
so this
my
is King
God.
This is King Sir. These are gigantic. Like this cliff, Sam, is hundreds of feet tall. Hundreds.
Oh my God.
And so these are gigantic reliefs that are hundreds of feet tall. And what this is King Sennacherib is an ancient Sumerian king who is being handed kingship from Enlil and his consort Ninlil to divinely rule there. That's what that means. Now, this is where it gets exciting also, because what we're doing is we're now tracing this emergence from Eastern Turkey into Syria, Iraq, and then into the Mediterranean to form the ancient Greek, pre-Greek civilization, and then the ancient Atlanteans. Now, here's a site. This is crazy, Sam. This is so
your
sad.
black nobility, Samuel.
This is the most sad site in the entire presentation, guys. Even worse than Eridu, because at least Eridu is still there. Kind of. I mean, it's being looted, but this is called Ain Dara in Syria. And remember, all these stones you see in front of you are made from this same material. I want to point out basalt.
Damn.
It's this volcanic, hard material. All of a sudden, we can track it to being coming out of nowhere here in Syria now. So they're coming towards the Mediterranean. How this was discovered is that lion on the right is like a 20-ton basalt lion. Massive, incredible. Look at the precision on that lion. Imagine one of the hardest stones in the world that's over 20 tons, like as tall as tons of people all standing on top of each other trying to carve this and whatever they were doing. But imagine
how tall is it?
This is over 20 feet tall.
Yeah, if you look next to it, that looks like a sidewalk, and look how small the sidewalk is.
Imagine this being carved by a civilization, one of the hardest stones ever. Look at the precision on that. It's perfect. Now you see how it's a lion, Sam? Yeah. Look at the lion, and with the wings. Watch this. Look, Sam. Look at the lion, the bottom he's standing on.
Yeah.
And the wings. It's the same thing.
Yep.
It's the same thing. He's there. They're emerging. They're moving southwest to here. Now, that footprint on the left are carved giant footprints that are 8 to 12 feet long that have been carved into the temple deliberately. Giant footprints. Giants.
Why would that be?
Because they said that this was a temple that was devoted to the god Enlil and Ishtar. And they were supposedly the gods walked among them. It was a temple created for the gods. Okay. So this entire temple, absolutely incredible, made all out of basalt, one of the hardest stones on earth, precise, was completely destroyed by Syria in 2018. Gone. Doesn't exist anymore.
I remember when they were doing that and everyone was like, why are you doing this? And they're like, we're doing it because there's no other thing but Allah. And I'm like, man, that's just not good.
This is a missing link. This is a missing link between Sumer and the Lake Von area and all these other civilizations. This site is a missing link. They wiped it out.
So it's not there. Like that line doesn't exist.
That lion and these structures are now gone. They bombed it. What's called carpet bombing. They bombed it with an enormous amount of bombs, and it's now gone.
Why would they do that?
Supposedly they dropped him on the. They were supposed to be for militia, but they dropped it in the wrong spot. And
of course.
This site now no longer exists, and it was like one of the missing links. It's gone. Okay, next site. Right next to it is a site called Ebla. Now, guys, this is what's fascinating. Notice the stone, the primitive stone on top of the hill, and look at the larger blocks down below it. Okay. But notice the stone is made of a different material. It's not basalt. It's more of it's a little bit like a lighter material, but the blocks are still very well crafted.
Unbelievable.
Now watch this though. Watch. See on both sides? Watch this, guys. There it is. Zernaki Tepe. So you're seeing emergence of two different styles that's branching out and going different parts of the world. Here's Zernaki Tepe and then the Kavis Tepe type of style. These two styles then become the two styles we see around the world. This style is then mimicked in all throughout Peru, and you see the jointed type of blocks that's a little bit more organic in nature, and we find this in Peru. And we're going to have genetic testing, by the way, from ancient skulls guys that comes back to this area. So
do you have any Sexuiman images on the ready, Matthew? Because when I look at this Zarneki Tepe, and you look at
no.
Okay, but yeah, it's just like, how are these rocks? It's almost like they melted into position. Exactly, but again, from an archaeological standpoint, it's a very similar identifying kind of markers. The fact that they're huge and they're megalithic, and how the hell they move them.
Right.
But the precision, yes, absolutely. Yeah.
See, and it'd be kind of like if you had a specific signature for like how you signed your name, and then you found that exact same thing across the world or something.
Right.
That signature means that the same influences basically taught them to do it. So we have an emerging, this ancient Sumerian king bloodline descendants that basically were divine connections to these Anuna gods that then were given this knowledge of creating these all around the world, and then they just disappeared, poof, just like that.
Johnny, is there a way for you to pull up a Sacsayhuaman Peru? You throw it in your little Rolodex there.
I can pull it up if you need to. You want me to pull it up?
Can you pull it up?
Yeah, I mean, just from a visual thing, it's like, wow, this is Turkey and this is Peru.
Can you spell that for us?
Johnny, how don't you know how to spell that?
Actually, I know. Can you look that up on the fourth computer? I would have to take his thing down to put that up.
Here, I'll stop sharing. Go ahead.
No, I mean, I would just have to. Actually, he's got the fourth feed here. Yeah, we just need you to spell it.
Dope hat, Jeff. Dope hat.
Sac. Stay. SACSAY, and then HUMAN.
Found it.
Are you?
Those are decent, but there's other ones that almost look identical to.
Those aren't the right ones we had on before, though.
Am I logged in? Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Those are Aindar.
That's. Did you type
it
in?
That's Aindar.
Yeah.
That's not.
Is it not popping up?
You're not even in the right place.
Well, that's not me. XG controls this computer.
Oh, that's funny.
I don't know what we're looking at though. Actually, that looks like that's the old. There it is. Okay.
There we go. Okay, don't click that one though, Sam. Scroll down to the right a little bit. Keep going to the right. I want to find a block one on the right. Yeah, scroll way to the right with your mouse. Click one of those polygon block ones on the right there. Those are really good. Something like that, yeah. So again, you get the idea. The same style is mimicked across the entire world.
Yeah.
And we find not only stories of those influences, but we have ancient skulls that have genetic testing back to this region. So this style became perfected, started at Zernaki Tepe. This polygonal style starts in Zernaki Tepe and becomes perfected once they get to here.
So the stones get bigger?
The stones get bigger.
Those
and
stones
they get
are
better
huge.
at what they do.
Yeah, those stones
are huge.
They get better at what they do, and they get more sophisticated over time as they go along. Yes.
And you look around that area, Pumapunku, Tiwanaku, Sacsayhuaman, you could see that ancient building at the bottom, and then the smaller, more primitive stuff on top of it. Same methodology of rebuilding on top of the more ancient stuff.
You guys want to get back now?
Yeah, let's get back.
Okay, let me get back here.
Sorry, I didn't mean to digress.
No worries.
All right, man.
Hold on. Wait, I think this. I'm sharing like two different things right now. Hold on. Here, let's do it again here. 1 second, guys.
We will. We're waiting. I'm texting as we take a break, I am testing my aunt to find out if Vaughn is.
Well, Wikipedia says Vaughn is in Turkey.
Yeah, but it says it's an Armenian city.
Because Armenia used to have different borders, guys. That's why. It's just
Yeah.
like sort of saying Tibet and China. It just doesn't really matter. They're just the borders.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, look. So let's get back to where we were. So again, look. So there's Zernaki Tepe. Look at the style there. See? Maybe a little bit smaller, but still quite large.
Yes.
And the same style of the polygons there. That's why these things basically emerge from here. And that's why it's the missing link. Because it then becomes these like super civilizations around the world. And we have a little bit more as we go here. So as Aindara destroyed, right? Ebla, back to Ebla. Look,
I want to
see?
fight all those people that destroyed that stuff.
Yeah,
what
really.
pieces of shit.
Now, guys, look at Ebla. Same style as Zernaki Tepe, we're getting close to the Mediterranean now. Remember, that's how you can travel around the world. Once you get to that, then you can go anywhere you want. So we get close there and you start getting these giant blocks with this primitive stuff on top. Same thing. And at
there you
Ebla,
are. Yep.
and at Ebla, we get an ancient royal library and king list, just like we see in ancient Sumerian, the Ashurbanipal library there. But this one's different. This one's in Syria, number one. Number two, it has Sumerian writings, but it has writings from Turkey, from this region, from Turkey. It has writings from Egypt. It has writings from Cyprus in the Mediterranean. It has writings from again, throughout Africa, throughout this whole region. It's like everyone meets here. All of these civilizations that are emerging, and traveling around the world, they all of a sudden meet here. And we have evidence for it from their writings all around the world. They meet here and then they go off. Boom. Then they diverge. The sons of Noah, just like the map on the left, just like the genetic testing of that. Look at that. Japheth in red, guys, look at the map. Look at the area of Eastern Turkey. It's red. It's just like it's supposed to be. And yet we find King's List with him being a descendant of Japheth. And so this is how it spreads around the world. And it eventually becomes the ancient Athenians and the Atlanteans. And then a catastrophe wipes them all out. And then we forget understanding how any of them connect. But we're not done yet, guys. We're not done yet.
Wait, there's more.
There's more.
That's it.
This is the descriptions of how these ancient civilizations branched off according to their ancient maps, and the descriptions we get from Plato in ancient Egypt from an elder priest known as Sanchez from the Temple of Sais that tells about these grand civilizations rising and falling from various catastrophes around the world. That's what we learn. And at the same time, this is where it's going to get wild. And by the way, Jeff, I did have some images on here. I forgot. So it's okay though.
All right.
Guys, this is where it's going to bring it all home. Here's my friend Bryan Forster, great researcher. The skull he's holding mimics ancient elongated skulls we find in Egypt with like Akhenaten, as well as in Malta in the Mediterranean from what's called the Oracle Chamber, and in Peru. And what we find are these gigantic elongated skulls that had nothing to do with cranial alignment. They're like almost like another version of humans. They're like genetically some other version of us that isn't really around anymore. That's them. That's that civilization, the sons of Noah. And these civilizations, he's holding one of their descendants of their skulls.
Damn.
Now, we know that because when we're in, this is Ollantaytambo and Sacsayhuaman in Peru, we have the same descriptions, same identical types of megalithic structures, same ancient stories of gods and sages traveling, right? All these things. And these Paracas skulls that are supposed to be descendants, they genetically tested them. Bryan Forster and Lloyd Pye, the great Lloyd Pye, who's no longer with us, they had a whole project where they genetically tested multiple skulls from a museum, as well as Gaia did a program. They genetically tested them, and they all came back to one region of the world. They all genetically were traced back to Eastern Turkey in this area, the area that this emerging civilization was. Not only the bloodlines, the genetics are here, the megaliths are spreading around the world. It's all fitting together. And we might as well throw one more in there, guys, because if somebody's still on the fence about this, but how about the Fuente Magna bull found in 1958 at Lake Titicaca in Bolivia, right next to on the Peru border, that had ancient cuneiform from Sumer found in the pottery there in South America. You don't need any more than that. The Sumerians, ancient king bloodline, go through a catastrophe, land in Eastern Turkey, create a new civilization that emerged that's more grand than ever before. They spread around the world, and here is a piece of pottery that's from those influences that made its way thousands and thousands of miles all the way into Bolivia and was found by a farmer tilling his field in 1958.
Damn.
Okay. And that is how we find out that we look at Earth history. We have had catastrophes that are beyond our comprehension. Things where temperatures have plummeted, in some cases 150 degrees below zero, and risen so extreme that plants were growing where they weren't supposed to, and then crashed back down. And catastrophes on a level that are like out of apocalyptic movies have erased this entire chapter to where we no longer think it exists any longer. And we're putting those pieces back together to understand that we descended from a great race of incredible builders and adepts and wise men that left behind these remnants for us to find and learn from and try to piece back together to understand who we truly are.
So, go ahead, Johnny.
Yeah.
What was that in the ice? What was that? Was that
That's
a mammoth?
That's a mammoth. Yeah, for completely frozen.
Tusk.
What? That's
Tusk right there.
crazy.
Yeah, so what they found, I'll just briefly mention this, it's kind of wild, but in 1901, in late 1800s, a man named Edward Toll was exploring Siberia, far up in Canada, and what he found was thousands of these frozen mammoths all throughout the northern landscape. I mean, thousands that had been frozen instantly. And he also found these frozen trees that weren't supposed to grow there that had green leaves that were frozen instantly as well, showing these fluctuations in temperatures that were so extreme. Like, for instance, the coldest temperature ever recorded on Earth is from Vostok, Antarctica. It's from like 1983, and it's like negative 129 degrees below zero. They determined that for these mammoths to freeze instantly with food undigested in their throats, like they're in the middle of feeding this enormous, toughest animal on Earth, is feeding, and it freezes instantly. They determined that the only way that could have happened to not putrefy, meaning rot, was the temperatures had to plummet to 150 degrees below zero, instantly, like that.
Quick question, Matt, about the elongated skulls. Like, I mean, they say that supposedly it's because it's intentionally done. With
No,
infants.
called
No, I know,
cranium
but it's
binding.
that if you watch like any Egyptian shit, they'll tell you that it was done through like they'll get an infant and they'll shape the head. So every single one of those persons was actually descendants of one of these.
No,
or can you really do that to a skull? Or can
you're trying to mimic like ancestors and you don't have those skulls anymore, but you try to mimic them by looking like them.
Yeah,
That's it.
got
That's all
you.
it is.
That's totally it.
That's why the ancient Sumerian gods, like, watch, guys, look. This really will bring it home. for
Like
everyone.
cargo cults, right?
No, right here, watch. Here. At the bottom of the screen, that's the famous mural from the Ashurbanipal Library.
Yeah.
The Anunnaki are on the outer edges with wings. The two inner people are a priest and a sage. Notice they look exactly like the Anuna because they are mimicking them. That's the whole point. Like, it's always been about mimicking the gods. That's what basically this whole thing has been about. It's about this connection to an ancient bloodline that then basically traveled around the world and infused itself in root races all around the world. And so it's all over the place now, basically. But it descends from these places, guys. And it's like this missing link of our history. That's this chapter that we don't understand.
And this gets into what I was saying about the beginning, how our religious and academic institutions have doubled down on keeping this from us. And not only just that, keep telling us a complete opposite narrative of how flawed and messed up we are because of whatever stuff that happened in the garden. But yeah, it's deep, man. It's deep.
That's some crazy ass shit, dude. It's so crazy.
So anyway,
It's next level.
Yeah,
It's
it's
next level,
I mean, when we look at our history and thinking about how we've risen up and had chapters that are in some ways more I'm going to call it more sophisticated than us, but not technologically necessarily. Like their understanding of the stars and energy, and basically, like, for instance, the Great Pyramids of Giza are matching the 3 belt stars of Orion, just like Teotihuacan in Mexico. They're trying to take like the energy of the cosmos and bring it to Earth. We don't think like that anymore. They're on another level that we're not.
We sure will trample you for good Black Friday sales or iPhone sales, though.
Right.
Yeah.
No problem doing that.
And you start to wonder if, like, a lot of the talk about sacred DNA and all the stuff they've done to us is, Matt, either I think Jeff was mentioning this, but that we're coming up on the time where it might happen again. Things seem to be lining up where it's going to be like, okay, time to reset this. Wrap it up.
I'm pretty optimistic for the future, though, Sam. I think this is the one that makes it.
And that's a whole nother chunk of conversation.
Yeah.
The timeline of the Heinrich events, what's causing these kind of catastrophic events. Is it meteors? Is it comets? Or is it something that Matt gets into very extensively on his channel, the binary star system, which is, just mind blowing in of itself.
Can we hear a little bit about that? What's the binary star system?
So I have about 10 minutes left, and I do have to go, guys.
Okay.
What I'll say is that really when we're looking at the influence of these civilizations and what destroyed them, what is pretty crazy to wrap our heads around is how adapted they were to surviving here, and yet they didn't make it. So it's a scary thought to think about, is that they were not like materialistic and living in the ways that we are, and they still didn't make it. Because what we're talking about are periods of catastrophes that sometimes last off and on for like over 1,000 years. And it really just, what it does is it makes us pales in comparison when we look at it to try to wrap our heads around this time period we're in with tiny fluctuations, right? Like a volcano goes off in Tonga and it doesn't really do that much, but we're like, oh my God, imagine the power of that. Imagine if 1,000 of those went off at the same time. Or imagine if tsunamis, if we had earthquakes that were like 11, 12 on the Richter scale, and they sent off tsunamis around the world that were like 5 miles high.
Simultaneously.
Or it's beyond our comprehension what they describe, but they describe it as, basically the ancient Egyptians describe it as being destroyed by fire and water. These civilizations throughout history. Now, what destroys them? It really comes down to some of the great minds like Randall and Graham believe that it's cosmic impacts from basically disrupting like the torrid meteor shower and sending objects in. And that may be a possible factor in this, because there are many events and this is a complex history of Earth. But one of the things I've been studying is the evidence that really points towards our solar system not having just one sun, but actually having like an ancient binary companion star that is so far out and distant and no longer is illuminated that it's been called the dark star. And its influences seem to be creating this cycle here of catastrophes and ice ages and all of these swings that is the reason why our civilizations have risen and fallen and been destroyed in truly catastrophic ways.
The dark star.
The dark star is called, yeah. And it's a whole, like, that's probably, honestly, guys, that's like a whole nother show in itself.
Absolutely.
To try to get into talking about that is complex, but it looks like, I mean, Sam, we know that NASA, there's a lot of things that have been hidden about our solar system, especially ever since the moon in different aspects. But I will tell you that there is compelling data that exists from the Pioneer probes and these probes that have been sent out before Voyager, that our solar system, like the outer solar system, is very different than we know, and that there are influences outer beyond the even the Kuiper belt that have an influence on our solar system gravitationally, and that we're part of like a great movement cycle in the cosmos.
By the way, they got a name for this dark star. It's called Nemesis.
Oh,
yes, it is. That's one of the names it's used for.
Right? No, not cute. Not cute at all.
It's been called the Destroyer. That's what Nemesis essentially means.
Hey, Matt, quick question. This is not your thing, but are you flat Earth or not flat Earth? Since you brought NASA being lying to us.
Spherical. All objects in the known universe have to adhere to universal constants, and a spherical object based on gravity is the only constant. And I know Eddie Bravo is a good friend of you guys, but I just disagree on that one thing. Okay.
No, we go. Yeah, of course.
All are welcomed. All are welcomed. Everybody
How dare you, XG? How dare you?
I had to. A trickster.
I'm just fucking
He said NASA was lying to us. I kind of was like, he's a flat earther, and then he was like, nope.
But let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater in these conversations. Of course, they've lied to us, but are they lying to us? You know, that's a whole nother.
No, that's all I gotta say. Great episode. Wish we could have gone a little deeper into the binary and the Nemesis star, but
let's do another show again. Okay, we can do the whole
set
thing.
it up, bro. Let's set it up.
Itself, as Jeff knows, it's like there's a lot of data there. You get deep into like all this
very dense
astronomical data from the probes, and it shows how distances to this object and how it's all these things are incredible.
Okay, well, I'm interested in all of it. We'd love to have you back ASAP. Yeah. Again, guys,
thank you.
Very excited. This is a great episode. Stay tuned for some highlights of some of my other podcasts. They'll be there. Check out our affiliate programs. It's a great way to help you when you need things in life to survive. And go to samtripoli.com for all of my dates. We're putting up new dates all the time. Hopefully more to come. We shall see. Again, thank you, both of you guys, for coming on. Thank you guys for being a part of the show. Thank you for listening. And please enjoy the highlights.
Here's a clip from the latest Broken Sim.
So this brings me in, and I was going to do a little video on this, but I thought I'd do it right here. Can we discuss the Theo Von Roseanne Barr
I don't know much
controversy?
about it. I just know that he had an episode he had to take off.
Can you go look at his Twitter feed? Because he plays the clip, and I want to break it down for you guys on why this is a lot about nothing. and it's very stupid. And
Are we going to talk about the other fun with stupid too that you wanted to
yeah, we'll get into that after.
All right, here it is. Okay.
So basically, they're talking about freedom of speech. They're discussing the importance of comedians. And what Roseanne Barr says is that as long as comedians are out there, we'll be fine, right? We'll be fine.
Yeah.
So here, let's play this real quick. Here we go.
When I ran for president in 2012, one of my platform things was I will outlaw bullshit.
Yeah.
Because, and I know that horrified people because what will they do now?
Right.
They're addicted to it. They'd rather have that than food or a happy family. They're so addicted to their fucking bullshit.
It's true, huh?
But, comics, I think we're the less free speech art form.
Yes.
And as long as we're performing, things ain't as bad as they could be. I think that's true.
As long as we're performing, things aren't as bad as they could be.
Yeah.
And that's always been the case throughout time, like with jesters or with people trying to speak up and share. There's always been a ceiling on speech, hasn't there, in a way?
Of course. Nobody wants to hear the real truth.
Yeah, she's right.
They're horrified.
So she's right about everything.
It's easier.
And
like for the real truth that, and I'm glad that they did set up all these guidelines so that we only are allowed to speak the truth. And the truth is that Biden got 81 million votes.
Stop.
By winning 36 counties.
Okay.
And
so I want to set this up. What she's doing right here is sarcasm, everybody. And I hate that I have to take a moment and explain sarcasm to everybody. But how would you describe sarcasm, Johnny? It's basically an exaggeration.
Yeah, or saying something you don't mean in an exaggerated way to prove a point.
Right. So you don't really mean it, but you're saying it in a almost a snarky kind of way, right?
Let's see what the actual
Yeah,
definition
that's
of
what I wanted
sarcasm
from you, Johnny. I love that I'm defining
the use of irony to mock or convey a contempt.
Perfect.
Okay.
That definition is the perfect definition, okay? That's what she's doing here. She's using irony. She's mocking. She does not believe that 81% of the 81 million people voted for Joe Biden. So keep it going.
Yeah. If you know anything about Roseanne Barr, you know that.
that is just incredible. It really, really is. And that of these 81 million supporters who gave him more votes than any president has ever gotten before, he came with a mandate from these 81 million voters. And, you know, I'm just glad that they were very careful to make sure that nobody could detract from that proven truth. You know what I mean?
Like, what do you mean? Like that nobody...
That they mandated that was the truth and that nobody could say, well, what about no?
Oh, it was made a mandate.
Yeah.
So,
I didn't know that.
So it's a little
So the government made it a
confusing
mandate?
right there, right? It's a little confusing what she's saying.
Well,
when she starts saying...
he's not following is the
Yeah,
problem.
because when you say mandate, what everybody thought was like vaccines and all that stuff,
too.
right?
Yeah,
so that
yeah.
word comes out and it kind of...
Yeah, I mean, before the mandate meant that you got elected with a mandate, like you had the authority to rule.
Right. So he's a little off by that. It's a little...
It put
Because
him
when
off,
you
yeah.
say mandate at this time, it's a little bit of double...
got a connotation.
Yeah, so you don't know. So he throws Theo off a little bit. And what she's saying is the mandate that this is a fact. That he got 81
Well, no,
votes.
what that means is when a candidate has a mandate, that means that they had such strong support that the country's behind them and they have the authority now to rule.
Because I think
in the
she's
name of
saying the
people.
mandate that you can't question this fact. Let's go. Here we go. Sorry.
Well, but that, I mean, in a political, we'll just run it back. In a political context.
Proven truth. You know what I mean?
Like, what do you mean? Like that nobody...
Hold on, we didn't get back.
Supporters who gave him more votes than any president has ever gotten before. He came with a mandate from these 81 million voters. And, you know, I'm just glad that they were very careful to make sure that nobody could detract from that proven truth. You know what I mean?
Like, what do you mean? Like that nobody...
That they mandated that was the truth and that nobody could say, well,
now
what about no?
it was made a
she
mandate.
said it in two different ways. She said he came with a mandate
Right,
from those
right,
81. And
right,
that's
right.
in the political sense.
Yes.
And then she's saying that the government mandated that is the
See,
truth. She used it two different ways.
It's a little weird.
Yeah, because she said mandate earlier, it made her more likely to use that word again.
So keep going. Keep going.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. So the government made it a mandate?
Yeah, because, you know, YouTube did, and so did all the social...
so you can't speak? You can't even speak on that in those platforms?
See, now he
No,
gets
you can't
it.
say, you know...
That it wasn't?
You can't say that, like, you know,
The
there was
election was
election...
rigged or-
yeah,
right.
that's all a lie. The election was not rigged. 36 counties can give you 81 million votes.
Right.
That's a fact.
36 counties can't
So it
give you
wasn't rigged.
81 votes.
Of course not.
Yeah.
36 counties have 81 million people in them. See? That's the truth. And
Yeah.
don't you dare say anything against it or you'll be off YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and all the other ones because we have, there's such a thing as the truth and facts and we have to stick to it. And,
It's scary.
and that is the truth. And nobody died in the Holocaust either.
So
That's the
stop.
Yeah.
truth. It should happen.
Oh, no, let go, let
6
go,
mil-
let go, let go, let go.
You should die right now because they cause all the problems in the world, but it never happened. But it never happened.
Yeah.
Mandated.
Well, because you're part Jewish, right? Part of your family's Jewish?
I'm all Jewish.
You're all Jewish.
100%.
And a lot of Hollywood is Jewish. Yeah.
I
it's
love
it's a-
this. This is the
a lot
most
of Hollywood
hilarious
is a
part of this
Jewish
whole
business.
thing.
Well, they started Hollywood.
Yeah.
Right. But so was it weird
Just
that
like rap. Black people started rap.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't go over there and try to get in rap and go, all these black people, go on Saturday Night Live like Dave Chappelle. I'm just saying a lot of black people are in control of rap.
Right.
Hello? Well, you went there. You
Yeah.
try to get in show business. Of course it's Jewish. But, and people should be glad that
love
it's Jewish
this
too,
joke.
because if Jews were not controlling Hollywood, all you'd have was fucking fishing shows.
Yeah.
I love
See what I'm
that. It's so funny. So, just based on her take on Dave Chappelle's monologue on Saturday Night Live, do you think she's anti-Jewish? No.
No, of course not.
Like,
yeah.
dude, you listen to her
No,
on Joe Rogan which I think is one of the greatest interviews Joe Rogan's ever done because he's trying to keep this shit on the tracks. Okay, she says I'm not white, I'm Jewish. She's fiercely Jewish. She's 100% like she loves being Jewish. So that's important because listen, I love Roseanne Barr. And the fact that anybody is trying to cancel her or Theo Von over this is absolutely ridiculous. And it might actually be more about what she's saying about Joe Rogan than actually about what she's.
What happened? Let's see what he said here. Okay, he said that. Let me go back here. Okay, he said clip got taken down off other platform. Oh no, that's my podcast with Roseanne was removed from another platform, so I want to be to go live somewhere or to be live somewhere. So I guess it just got taken down off YouTube. Is that what he's saying?
Yeah, I'm sure.
What do you think got it taken down of that?
It's here we go. Be ready to beep.
Even
Once
though
you
she
start
was clearly joking.
Yeah, but see, that's it. So when she does the joke, dude, about 81 million people voted that it's a fact that she's happy the government. So she's using sarcasm there, right?
Yeah, which might be making
which we
this
all know
decision,
AI
can't
has
do.
like blue hair and is when it's not AIing, it's a barista at Starbucks, right? So we know that, right? We know that's where they work, okay? And when they have their days off, they're doing Antifa. That's what AI does. So we know that, right? So all right, guys, thanks for listening to the show. We appreciate it. Real quick, we want to tell you about our affiliate, some of these companies we have affiliate programs with that we think are important for you and you surviving the zombie apocalypse. We have Wise Wolf Gold and Silver. I am a part of their Wise Wolf package. They do different increments of money per month. You buy it. They send you precious metals. They have all the way up to $500. It's a great way to collect precious metals. It's a great way to put your money in, and a great way to get ready for if the financial markets collapse. We also have our good friends at Aqua Cure Hydrogen Brown Gas. Everybody who gets it loves this. As you know, we don't have a lot. What is it? Nitrous? No.
Hydrogen.
Hydrogen. That's right. Hydrogen in our air. And this helps get you back to it. As some say, reverses the aging process.
A lot of good feedback from
Everyone loves it. I'm setting up mine now. So please check it out. That's click the links and people have gotten it, have loved it. We also have our good friends at Harley Ray Crystals and Candles. We love them very much. They're wonderful people, and they have all the spiritual tools you need are there, whether it's candles for burning sage, quartz, crystals, you name it. We love them. We love working with them. And if you use Swarm 15, you get $15% off your ads. And finally, we have two more. Joel Staley. I lost a lot of weight. I'm doing this this Hard 75, I think I'm going to ease in to the fasting program. But Joel Staley helped me lose a ton of weight, and I want you to check out his videos. He loves helping people get in shape, lose 20 to 50 pounds of fat in 90 days. You can do it because I did it. I hope you guys try it out. And then our friends at Legal Shield, if you need legal help, they're a great way to for a monthly fee, you get access to legal people that help you with business, legal plans, business builders, you name it. Charlie Robinson from Microaggressions hooked us up with this guy, and we're very excited about it. So, Mike, what?
Macroaggressions.
Is it a macroaggression? Sorry,
Microaggressions is the real thing.
Okay, macroaggressions. I love Charlie. Check it out right there, and it's a great way. All those are wonderful affiliates that will help you in your time of need when everything hits the fan. So enjoy that. Now listen to these highlights from some of my favorite shows I do, plus anything XG does. Enjoy the highlights. And here's a quick sneak peek of Conspiracy Social Club. Enjoy.
The Ukraine has a chance to win this war.
Brian, the Ukraine has no chance of winning this war. No, Brian. No.
Sam,
no.
You're
no.
speaking
no.
again out
Please
of your
stop.
ass. No, but Sam.
Please
you
reverse Rod Stewart again. Please stop.
Don't Jim Carrey this and pull your ass open and start talking.
Yeah.
Because you're talking
what
literally
are you talking?
out of your asshole.
The Ukraine has no chance of winning this. None.
The Russians are in serious trouble.
Brian, what algorithm are you listening to?
And the Ukrainians are actually holding them off. And Russia has some major problems because there are these internal mutinies and divisions. And they need Prigozhin's army.
I am going to
Wagner
time right
mercenaries.
now how much of my life you're taking.
Check out this clip from the latest Cash Daddies.
I make my way here at 22. And I made many attempts before.
Oh, okay.
And it didn't work out. I received many. I went to the U.S. Embassy in the capital. Every time I go, they refuse. And then one day, I get on board of a boat. And I said, one way to another, I will get to United States of America, the land of money. I want to see the green. It was my only passion. Okay? And then the voyage was very lengthy. It was very long. I almost lose my life when we get to Nassau. There was somewhat tornado, and then the boat almost capsized.
Oh my God.
We cried to God. I mean, it was an amazing journey. We spent about 20 plus days.
Wow.
And sometime, I remember one day I went to the deck and I opened both of my arms and I made a promise to God. I said, God, sorry if I get emotional because it's I'm reliving what happened.
We're good
said,
with it.
I said, God, if you made me rich, the land of money, I will give the rest of my life to you. And after I made that prayer, and then the sea was very calm. And we continue. And as I was coming, I saw an abundance of light. Things that I have never seen before. I'm not creating a drama for you guys. But living in a poor country, the abundance of light we have here in the United States, it's never seen before. And I've seen the light. I'm dancing. Everybody was seeing the light. And then the boat's engine went dead.
Oh my.
And it was about 4:00 in the morning. It's like not all hope were lost, but it was such a deception. In about 8 or 9 o'clock, because I have to try to make it short, I couldn't give you all the detail. And about 8 or 9 o'clock, the Coast Guard came. And it's like a savior. They throw us a life jacket, and then they came on board, they talked to us. we all were legal on the boat because we have passport, we that have visa and things like that. So how do you use that word? They remoke or they towed the boat.
They towed the boat.
Thank you. They towed the boat to Fort Lauderdale. I didn't know it was Fort Lauderdale then. They towed it to Fort Lauderdale port, and then there we were able to see the land, but we couldn't even get out of the boat because we're not assigned yet with custom. It was an amazing story. And
it is amazing.
Yes, but we were able to do all the legal steps, and they let me into the land of money.
Respect.
That's how I got here. I could give you more detail, but
No, it's great, man. That was a great story.
Yeah.
I really do
First
appreciate it.
job. What was your first job in
Yeah,
America?
so you get here. So basically, like, where did you go? I mean, like, how do you get your first job? What, like, you're here. What do you do?
We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Tinfoil hat.